You know what absolutely does my head in? Watching hardworking Aussies punt their savings on the ASX or some dodgy crypto coin like they're feeding pineapples into a pokie machine at the local RSL. Meanwhile, they're completely ignoring the fact that they've got a credit card debt charging them 20% interest, sitting right there, laughing at them. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water while there are massive holes in the bottom, and then scratching your head wondering why the bloody thing is never full. G'day, I'm Lachie. I spend way too much of my time obsessing over money, optimal investment strategies, and trying to figure out why most of us seem determined to do everything in the complete wrong order when it comes to building wealth in this country. If you're someone who actually wants to understand the proper sequence for investing your hard-earned dollar dues, instead of just throwing cash at whatever hot tip your mate Davo gave you at the pub, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up if it ends up saving you from making some expensive mistakes that could cost you a house deposit. Here's something that might shock you. We like to think of ourselves as the lucky country, but according to recent data from Finder, nearly half of all Australians have less than $1,000 in savings. That's right, $1 grand. That's barely enough to cover a set of new tires or an emergency trip to the vet if your dog eats something he shouldn't. And with the cost of living crisis we're in right now, where a bag of chips costs more than a small car used to, that buffer is shrinking every single day. Yet, these same people are sliding into my Democrat Mississippi asking if they should buy shares in some lithium miner or if now is the time to load up on Bitcoin. Mate, that's like asking if you should buy a Ferrari when you can't even afford to fix the transmission in your 2005 Corolla. The truth is, there is an optimal order for investing your money in Australia. It's a specific sequence that takes advantage of our unique tax system, our superannuation rules, and our banking products. Getting this right can literally save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime and dramatically accelerate your path to financial independence, or FIRE, as the cool kids call it. But most people ignore this sequence. Why? Because it's not sexy. It's not as exciting as picking the next Afterpay or trying to time the property market. They want to skip straight to the fun stuff without doing the boring foundational work that actually matters. Today, I'm going to walk you through the exact order you should be investing your money, step by step, specifically tailored for the Australian system, so you can maximize your returns while minimizing your risk. And I guarantee some of this is going to surprise you, especially the part about why salary sacrificing isn't just for rich old blokes, and why your mortgage offset account might just be the best investment vehicle in the entire world. Better than shares, better than property, better than anything. But before we dive into the specific steps, let me tell you why getting this order wrong can be so devastating. Imagine you're building a house. You wouldn't start by picking out fancy light fixtures and granite benchtops if your slab was cracked and your roof was leaking, would you? Yet, that's exactly what most people do with their finances. They get excited about investing in the latest trendy ETF while carrying high interest debt that is guaranteed to destroy any gains they might make. The opportunity cost of getting this wrong is massive. Every month you delay paying off a credit card or a personal loan that's charging you 18% interest is a month where that debt is growing faster than almost any investment you could reasonably expect to make on the share market. Every month you ignore the tax benefits of superannuation is literally free money you're handing over to the ATO. And we all know they don't need any more of your cash. Righto, let's get into it. Step 1. Before you invest a single dollar anywhere, you need to establish an emergency fund. Now, I know this sounds boring. I know you'd rather hear about which ASX stocks are going to make you rich. But here's why this matters more than you think. An emergency fund isn't just about having cash for unexpected expenses, though that's certainly important. It's about creating a psychological safety net. It prevents you from making terrible financial decisions when life inevitably throws a curveball at you. When your car breaks down, or you need urgent dental work that Medicare won't cover, having an emergency fund means you don't have to sell your investments at the worst possible time. You don't have to rack up high interest debt on a credit card just to survive. The question everyone asks is, Lachie, how much do I need? The traditional advice is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. But honestly, that range is so broad it's almost useless. Here's what I recommend for most Aussies. Start by saving your first $2,000 as quickly as possible. Put it in a high-interest savings account. Plenty of banks are offering decent rates right now if you jump through a few hoops. This $2,000 covers most minor emergencies: a blown tire, a washing machine that decides to flood the laundry, a sudden trip interstate for a funeral. It gives you that psychological buffer. Then, work toward 1 month of bare-bones living expenses. I'm talking rent or mortgage, Bills, food, and petrol. No Uber Eats, no Friday night beers. Just survival money. Once you hit that milestone, keep building until you reach 3 months. The amount you need really depends on your situation. If you're a public servant with a stable government job and heaps of sick leave, maybe 3 months is fine. If you're a freelancer, a tradie running your own business, or you work in a volatile industry, you might need closer to 6 months. But here's the kicker. Having this cash sitting there does something magical to your brain. It lowers your stress levels. It lets you walk into work with your head held high because you know if everything goes pear-shaped, you're not going to be destitute next week. Once you've got that emergency buffer in place, step 2 is absolutely critical. You need to eliminate all high-interest debt before you invest anything else. And when I say high-interest debt, I'm talking about anything charging you more than about 7 to 8% annually. Credit cards are the obvious villain here. With average interest rates in Australia hovering around 18% to 22%, credit card debt is financial cancer. It grows faster than almost any reasonable investment return you could expect. Carrying credit card debt while trying to invest in shares is like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of bricks. You might be moving forward, but the weight is crushing you. Mathematically, paying off debt is a guaranteed return equal to the interest rate. If you pay off a credit card charging 20%, you effectively just made a 20% return on your money. Guaranteed. Tax-free. Where else in the world can you get a guaranteed 20% return? Warren Buffett's long-term average is like 20%. By paying off your debt, you are literally investing like Warren Buffett. And it's not just credit cards. It's personal loans for that holiday you took 3 years ago. It's car finance. And yes, it's those buy now, pay later schemes. Just because they say interest-free doesn't mean they aren't trapping you in a cycle of payments that eat up your cash flow. If you're missing payments and getting hit with late fees, that's high interest debt in disguise. The strategy here is straightforward. List all your debts. Attack the one with the highest interest rate first. This is called the avalanche method. Throw every spare dollar at that highest rate debt while paying the minimums on the others. Once the first one is gone, take all that money and attack the next highest rate. Rinse and repeat until you're free. Now, here is where the Australian system differs massively from the US advice you see on YouTube. Step 3 is where we start playing the game to win. In America, they talk about employer matching. In Australia, we have something even better, but also more complex, the tax advantages of superannuation. Your employer already contributes 11.5%, rising to 12% soon, into your super. That's the super guarantee. You don't have a choice about that. But step 3 is about salary sacrificing, or making personal deductible contributions. This might seem boring because you can't touch the money until you're 60. I get it. When you're 25, 60 feels like a lifetime away. But hear me out, because the math is undeniable. Money you put into super via salary sacrifice is taxed at a flat rate of 15%. Money you take home in your pay packet is taxed at your marginal tax rate. For the average Aussie earning around $95,000, every extra dollar you earn is taxed at 32.5% plus the 2% Medicare levy. That's nearly 35%. So, by putting money into super, you are instantly saving about 20% in tax. That is an immediate, guaranteed return on your investment before the money is even invested in the market. Let's say you decide to put an extra $10,000 into super this year. If you took that as cash salary, the ATO would take about $3,450, leaving you with $6,550 to invest. If you salary sacrifice it, the ATO takes only $1,500, the 15% contributions tax, leaving you with $8,500 working for you in your super fund. You literally have nearly $2,000 more capital working for you, just by choosing the right account. That is the definition of free money. So, step 3 is, if you can afford to lock the money away until 60, start making extra contributions to your super. But, and this is a big but, don't go crazy yet. You have a cap. It's called the concessional contribution cap, and for the 2024 to 2025 financial year, it's $30,000. This includes what your employer pays. I'm not saying max it out immediately if you're saving for a house or need cash flow. But you should absolutely be considering this before you start buying random ETFs in a brokerage account. Now, let's move to step 4. This is the part that replaces the HSA advice you hear from Americans. In Australia, we have a unique financial weapon called the offset account. If you have a mortgage on your home, your PPOR or principal place of residence, this is likely the best place for your money after you've covered your basics. An offset account is a transaction account linked to your mortgage. Every dollar sitting in there reduces the balance on which the bank charges you interest. Let's say you have a mortgage with an interest rate of 6.5%. Every dollar in your offset account saves you 6.5% in interest. But Lachie, I hear you say, I can make 8% or 9% in the stock market. Maybe, but that 8% in the stock market is taxable. After the ATO takes their cut, your 8% might shrink down to 5% or 6%. The 6.5% return from your offset account is tax-free. You don't pay tax on interest you saved. So, a guaranteed, tax-free 6.5% return is effectively like earning a 9% or 10% guaranteed return in the stock market, depending on your tax bracket. That is incredibly hard to beat with zero risk. Plus, unlike super, this money is liquid. If you need it for an emergency, you can pull it out instantly. It doubles as your emergency fund holder. But Lachie, I can't afford a house. I'm eating 2-minute noodles for dinner. Fair point. If you don't have a mortgage yet but you want to buy one, Step 4 becomes the First Home Super Saver, or FHSS scheme. This allows you to use the superannuation tax benefits from Step 3 to save for a house deposit. You contribute extra to super, taxed at 15%, and then you can withdraw up to $50,000 of those voluntary contributions, plus earnings, to buy your first home. It's like a turbocharged savings account where the government chips in to help you buy a house. If you are saving for a first home and not using FHSS, you are literally leaving thousands of dollars on a table. Once you've got your debt sorted, your offset account is looking healthy, or you're using FHSS, we circle back to super. Step 5 is to truly maximize those concessional contributions up to the $30,000 cap. And here is a pro tip: carry forward rules. If your super balance is under $500,000 and you haven't used your full $27,500 or now $30K cap in previous years, going back 5 years, you can use those unused amounts now. This is massive if you've had a pay rise or sold an asset and have a big capital gains tax bill. You can dump a lump sum into super, claim a massive tax deduction using your old unused caps, and wipe out a huge chunk of your tax bill. Again, this money is locked away until you're 60. So you have to balance tax efficiency with liquidity. If you plan to retire early, or FIRE, at 45, you can't lock everything in super. But for the vast majority of Aussies, super is the most tax-effective vehicle we have. Finally, we are finally here. Step 6. This is where most people start, but it should be the last step in the optimized chain. Taxable brokerage accounts. This is where you buy your ETFs like VAS, VGS, A200, IVV, or your individual shares. This money is accessible anytime. There are no contribution limits, but there are no tax breaks on the way in, and you pay tax on dividends and capital gains. However, Australia has one more trick up its sleeve for you here: franking credits or imputation credits. This is a uniquely Australian thing. When an Australian company like BHP or CommBank pays corporate tax, usually 30%, and then pays you a dividend, they attach a credit for the tax they already paid. When you do your tax return, the ATO acknowledges that tax has already been paid on that money. If your personal tax rate is lower than 30%, maybe you're retired or part-time, the ATO will actually refund you the difference in cash. If your tax rate is higher, you only pay the gap. This prevents double taxation and makes investing in Australian dividend-paying shares incredibly tax-efficient compared to other countries. So, Step 6 is your bridge fund. This is the money you build up to bridge the gap between retiring early, say, at 50, and being able to access your super at 60. You want to invest in broad market index funds, or ETFs. Don't try to be a hero picking stocks unless you really know what you're doing. And statistically, you probably don't. Low-cost ETFs like Vanguard or BetaShares are the gold standard here. They give you diversification across hundreds of companies for a tiny management fee. Also, remember the CGT discount. If you hold an asset for more than 12 months in Australia, you get a 50% discount on the capital gains tax when you sell. So, trading in and out of stocks every week is tax inefficient. Buy, hold, shut up, and wait. So, let's recap the golden Aussie order. Emergency fund, $2,000 cash first, Then build to 3 to 6 months of expenses in a HESA. Kill bad debt. Destroy anything with an interest rate over 7 to 8%. Credit cards, personal loans, car finance. The free money, salary sacrifice into super up to the cap to save massive amounts on tax, if you can tolerate the lockup. The guaranteed return, mortgage offset account, or FHSS for first home buyers. This is your risk-free, tax-free powerhouse. Max Super. Use carry-forward contributions if you have a high income year. The Bridge, taxable brokerage account, ETFs or shares, with a focus on franking credits and long-term CGT discounts. If you follow this order, you are building a financial fortress. You're not just gambling, you're engineering wealth. Most people never get past step 2. They're drowning in debt while trying to trade crypto on their lunch break. Don't be that person. Be the person who does the boring stuff right. Because the boring stuff is what buys you freedom. It buys you the option to quit the job you hate. It buys you time with your family. Your future self, sitting on a beach in Noosa or sipping a flat white in Melbourne without a worry in the world, will thank you for it. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Which step are you currently stuck on? I read every single one. Cheers, guys. I'll see you in the next one.